YouTubers, this is Nurse J at Nursing the Truth, and this is my second video of the day. Today I had presented a video of the gay eunuchs for Jesus. I did receive a nice comment, and for the person who wrote that, thank you so much. Both of the books are in contradiction with one another, so definitely everyone needs to do their homework. But what I'm going to present today in this other video are the forged origins of the New Testament. A lot of the things that we think that are the inerrant words of God, in 2 Timothy, all the scriptures are breathed through God, and it comes through man to tell other men what he said. Why can't God talk to us? Why does he have to have people that talks to a man to tell a bunch of people? So enough with that being said. In the 4th century, the Roman Emperor Constantine united all religious factions under one composite deity and ordered the compilation of new and old writings into a uniform collection that became the New Testament. Now, there was a thing, and I believe in 313, the Edict of Milan, where it was okay to practice all religions. It was, people weren't getting killed for it. They were able to practice without any harassment. As before, people were, getting hunted down and so on and so forth. Now, what the church doesn't want you to know is it has been often been emphasized that Christianity is like any other religion, and that it stands by itself and it's all authentic and nothing's been pulled from any other cultures. And it says that the church agrees, saying, and I'm quoting out of actual texts, the church says, our documentary sources of knowledge about the origins of Christianity and its earliest development are chiefly the New Testament scriptures, the authenticity of which we must to a great extent take for granted. Catholic Encyclopedia, Volume 3, page 712 in the Farley edition, Farley. The church makes extraordinary admissions about its New Testament. For example, when discussing the origin of the writings, the most distinguished body of academic opinion ever assembled, the Catholic Encyclopedia's preface admits that the Gospels do not, listen to me again, do not go back to the 1st century of the Christian era. That's stated in Catholic Encyclopedia, Farley edition, volume 6, page 137. This statement conflicts with priesthood assertions that the earliest Gospels were progressively written during the decades following the death of the Gospel. In a remarkable aside, the church further admits that the earliest of the extant manuscripts of the New Testament, it is true, do not date back beyond the middle of the 4th century AD. Catholic Encyclopedia, op.cit. page 656 to 657. So, wow. I mean, that ought to tell you something. The Council of Nicaea was in 325, and they're saying that all of this doesn't come back until the middle of the 4th century, which would be in the 300s, and the middle would be, give or take 350, 340, something like that. Okay, that it is some 350 years after the time of the church claims, now they claim, that a Jesus walked the sands of Palestine and hear the true story of Christian origins slips into one of the biggest black holes in history. There is, however, a reason why there are no New Testaments until the 4th century. They were not written until then, and here we find evidence of the greatest misrepresentation of all time. So that's pretty bad. The Catholic Encyclopedia just stated that they did not have any original documents from this 1st century, that we did not get any New Testament documentation until the middle of the 4th century during Constantine's reign. British-born Flavius Constantine, who authorized the compilation of the writings now called the New Testament. After the death of his father in 306, Constantine became king of Britain, Gaul, Spain, and then after a series of victorious battles, emperors of the Roman Empire. Christian historians give little or of no hint of the turmoil of the times and suspend Constantine in the air, free of all human events happening around him. The majority of modern-day Christian writers suppress the truth about the development of their religion and conceal Constantine's efforts to curb the disreputable character of the presbyters, who are now called church fathers. That's cited in Catholic Encyclopedia, Farley edition, volume 14, page 370. They were maddened, he said. That is stated in the Life of Constantine, attributed to Eusebius of Caesarea. The Nicene and post-Nicene fathers cited, attributed to St. Ambrose, Reverend Professor Roberts, and Principal James Donaldson, editors, said the peculiar type of oratory expounded by them was a challenge to settle religious orders. Ancient records reveal the true nature of the presbyters, and the low regard in which they were held has been suddenly suppressed by modern church historians. In reality, they were the most rustic fellows. Now, these are the people that were at the Nicene Council and the Church Fathers. This is what they said about these people. The most rustic fellows, teaching strange paradoxes. They openly declared that none but the ignorant was fit to hear their disclosures. They never appeared in the circles of the wiser and better sort, but always took care to intrude themselves among the ignorant and uncultured, rambling around to play tricks at fairs and markets. They lard their lean books with their fat old fables, and still the less do they understand. And they write nonsense, and has been doing this ever since. This was in Contra Celsum, against Celsus, and this was also in the Origin book of Alexandria. So you can look at the Against Celsus or Origin of Alexandria, and you can read about what Celsus had said. He was not a religious person. He lived in the 2nd century, and he saw what was going on and what they were doing, and they were fraudulent and making up bullshit, and he wrote about it, and we really don't have a lot of his writings, or if any. You hear about this through opponents of the day. It also says that clusters of presbyters had developed many gods and many lords as in 1 Corinthians 8:5. And numerous religious sects existed, each with different doctrines. Galatians 1:6. Presbyteral groups clashed over attributes of their various gods, and altar was set against altar, and competing for an audience. From Constantine's point of view, there were several factors that needed satisfying, and he set out to develop an all-embracing religion during a period of irreverent confusion. In an age of crass ignorance, with 9/10 of the people of Europe illiterate, stabilizing religious splinter groups was only one of Constantine's problems. The smooth generalization, which so many historians are content to repeat, that Constantine embraced the Christian religion and subsequently granted official toleration, is contrary to historical fact and should be erased from our literature forever. This was stated in the Catholic Encyclopedia, PECCI edition, volume 3, page 299. Simply put, there was no Christian religion at Constantine's time, and the church acknowledges that the tale of his conversion and baptism are entirely legendary. Did you just hear that? The Catholic Church acknowledges that the tale of his conversion was entirely legendary. And this is stated in the the Catholic Encyclopedia, Farley edition, volume 14, page 370 to 371. This is astounding. Constantine never acquired a solid theological knowledge and depended heavily on his advisors in religious questions. This is found in the Catholic Encyclopedia, New Edition, volume 7, page 576. I'm giving you detailed places to go find this. I don't care if it's a library, a church, your Catholic church. Pull your Catholic encyclopedias. According to Eusebius, which Eusebius lived from 260 to 339, stated, Constantine noted that among the Presbyterian factions, strife had grown so serious, vigorous action was necessary to establish a more religious state, but he could not bring about a settlement between rival god factions. Okay, so we have here where Eusebius is telling that he couldn't bring a settlement of this Christianity. And so he's looking at rival god factions. This is cited in the Life of Constantine by Eusebius, op.cit. page 26. The advisors warned him that the presbyters' religion were destitute of foundation and needed official stabilization. Okay. Constantine, my stupid computer's acting up. Constantine saw in this confused system of fragmented dogmas the opportunity to create a new and combined state religion, neutral in concept, and to protect it by law. When he conquered the East in 324, he sent his Spanish religious advisors, Osius of Cordoba, to Alexandria with letters to several bishops exhorting them to make peace among themselves. The mission failed, and Constantine probably the suggestion of Osius, then issued a decree commanding all presbyters and their subordinates be mounted on horses, mules, belonging to the public, and travel to the city of Nicaea, in the Roman province of Bithynia in Asia Minor. They were instructed to bring with them. Now, listen to this, guys. Constantine instructed them to bring with them testimonies they orated to the rabble, bound in leather for protection during the long journey, and surrender them to Constantine upon arrival to Nicaea. Their writings totaled in all 2,231 scrolls and legendary tales of gods, saviors, and together with a record of the doctrines orated by them. This is in the life of Constantine, O.P. CIT. Volume 2, page 73. So Constantine is telling these presbyters, get on your donkeys, asses, mules, bring all of these writings, bring all the legendary tales of gods and saviors together with a record of the doctrines orated by them. So we have gods, we have doctrines, what they did, how they lived. So that's critical. Okay. The First Council of Nicaea and the missing records. So the first ecclesiastical gathering in history was summoned and is today known as the Council of Nicaea. It was a bizarre event that provided many details of the early clerical thinking and presents a clear picture of the intellectual climate prevailing at the time. It was at this gathering that Christianity was born, not in the first century. It just said this was when Christianity was born. And the ramifications of decisions made at the time were difficult to calculate. Okay. It said Constantine had been initiated into the religious order of Sol Invictus, one of the two thriving cults that regarded the sun as the one and only supreme God, and the other was Mithraism. Because of his sun worship, he instructed Eusebius to convene the first of three settings on the summer solstice, June the 21st of 325. This is cited in your Catholic Encyclopedia, New Edition, Volume 1, page 792. Constantine, he was initiate of the Sol Invictus, and he made the worship of the sun on Sunday. He said that he didn't want to have any part of any Jewish holidays on a Saturday, which is called Sabbath. And actually, if you dig into that, as far as the Jews on Saturday, that's also a Babylonian tradition. So they picked up other things too. So they're not all the way, holy too. So, so what you're doing now is, you're thinking Constantine, oh, praise God, he was so wonderful. He was a beast. He killed his family members. So go do some research on your holy man. And he also said, well, we're going to worship God, okay, this God on a Sunday. No, he's worshiping the sun, just like every culture has from the beginning of time. And everything was stolen from Egypt. And when the Romans invaded Greece and they went to Egypt and they looked on the temples and all that and the tombs and their wonderful works, they saw what the Egyptians were saying all along. And they raped and they pillaged and they killed people. Christianity is the most murderous religious cult in all of history, and they still are continuing to do that today. They will rape, pillage, take from other people and other countries to make it their own, and we have to stop this.